Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Dan the Movie Man with another big show for you today. Well, it's December, and you know what that means. And no, I'm not just talking about Christmas. I am talking about we have a new Star Wars movie that just came out this month, and that is Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. It is finally out. It has probably been one of, if not the most anticipated movie of 2016. And I finally got a chance to see that, and I thought I would give my 2 cents on what I thought about it and let you guys know about it. So, the story of Rogue One follows the story of Jyn Erso, played by Felicity Jones. And in this movie, she is a rebel who is captured and then rescued by the rebellion. And they tell her that there are plans to the Death Star that they need so that they can destroy it. And the reason why they have her is because they believe that her father is responsible for the creation of the Death Star. So her and a group of other rebels, including a pilot, an Imperial droid, and many others, to go on this journey with her through this epic war and this intense heist story on bringing the Empire down. So, what did I think of this movie? With all of that said, and with all the hype that has been going around, I think Disney and Lucasfilms did it again. This is a masterful Star Wars movie. I wouldn't say that it's up there with, I wouldn't say it's better or as good as Empire, but it's definitely up there. It's probably, in my opinion, the most dark and grim Star Wars movie that has ever been put on the big screen. It delivers everything that a Star Wars fan could ask for and more. It has an engaging story to it. It has memorable characters, a great villain, and there's plenty more to say, so let's get right into it. First off, the main character, Jyn Erso, played by Felicity Jones, I thought was a fantastic addition to this franchise. I mean, she pretty much was one of the cast members that was holding the weight of this story. And she is a very powerhouse actress. Felicity Jones is one of those actors who is, just starting up small, even though she has been nominated for an Oscar. But I feel like people are now just starting to realize who she is and what her potential can be. So we have seen her in films such as The Theory of Everything and soon When a Monster Calls. And even though that, she's done like these Oscar-worthy movies, she decided to do a Star Wars film instead. And, I gotta say, she definitely fits into this world. Other characters, such as Diego Luna's character, Cassian Andor, I thought was a great addition to this story as well. This is also one of the few Star Wars movies out there that this is probably the best acting I've ever seen in a Star Wars movie. Especially since Force Awakens, everyone was on their A game with that story. And not to say that the acting in the previous movies, not the prequels, the original trilogy were bad. It's just the acting is really overshining the story. And the story I felt was incredibly engaging. If you want to do an anthology story on Star Wars, I feel like this is the most appropriate one to do. The most appropriate to start off, and then you lead it forward. Because this film, since it is a prequel to Episode 4, it is also, it's not just that, but pretty much, tying in to A New Hope. And that's what I really love about it. But I will say my favorite character of all time in this movie, K2SO, voiced by Alan Tudyk, best droid ever. I mean, this guy absolutely steals the show. The moment you see him on screen, like not even a minute, and I automatically thought to myself, he is my favorite character. This is the guy who's going to steal the show, and he does. He absolutely delivers. Half the time, you can't even tell that it is Alan Tudyk. I mean, he just has one of those distinctive voices. Or, like, his voice is just normal in real life, but every time like he voices a character such as King Candy in Wreck-It Ralph or the Duke of Weselton in Frozen, you completely forget that it's him in those roles. I mean, it's just so out there that you wouldn't even think that. And he's K2SO in this movie. He's pretty much what I wanted C-3PO to be more like. And I would say him and BB-8 are probably, so far when it comes to droids, my favorite ones now are, it goes from K2SO, BB-8, R2-D2, C-3PO, and maybe TC-14, but I don't count her because I'm not even going to count Phantom Menace for that one. There may be a few issues that I have with it, only two, but aside from those issues, this movie is nearly a masterpiece. Number one are some of the characters in this movie. And while I said they are likable and somewhat memorable, I didn't think that the supporting cast was as memorable as the majority of characters in The Force Awakens. While I do think that The Force Awakens has better characterizations, and I do think that it's a better film overall, I think that Rogue One had a more unique story going on with it. And, like, take for instance, characters such as Rey, Finn, Poe Dameron, Kylo Ren, Han Solo, like even the old characters, those are memorable characters. Those are characters that we're going to remember for the rest of our lives as Star Wars fans. Some of the characters, on the other hand, aside from Jyn Erso, Cassian Andor, K2SO, and Donnie Yen's character, Chirrut Imwe, I'm not sure if that's the way how you pronounce it, but that's part of the reason right there. That's the point that I'm getting to, is that there are some characters where I was like, well, who's that and who's that? And while they are well-written, well-acted, and very likable characters, I wouldn't say they're as memorable, again, as the ones from The Force Awakens. I felt that they were somewhat expendable. Like, I felt like that they were just mainly roll calls, where it's like, I'm an Imperial droid who was reprogrammed to help you. I'm a guardian of the Jedi Temple. I'm also a guardian of the Jedi Temple, and I also help him. I'm a pilot who knows how to get to where we need to go to, and I'm this character. And it's like, okay, they're just mainly just introducing themselves so that, we can care. I don't know if it maybe came off as forced, but it didn't really, and they are well written, don't get me wrong. It's just, I feel like if I'm going to look up, if I want to try to understand these characters, I have to feel like, I got to look these up again. Like, when it comes to other characters such as Rey and Finn, I don't need to look that up. They're already embedded in my head. And the other problem that I had with this movie is just one minor thing, and if it was only in one scene, it would have been excusable, but I think it was maybe in 3 or 4 scenes. And that is a specific CG character. I won't say who it is right now, but I will get into that into my spoiler corner. But overall, I thought that this film was a triumphant Star Wars piece. The villain in the movie, Orson Krennic, who I'm trying to remember what this actor's name is. I do remember that he was in The Dark Knight Rises, and his name is Ben Mendelsohn. And when I found out that he was in Dark Knight I didn't even realize he was until I went online to see what other work he's done, and then I realized, okay, now I remember where I've seen this character before. So, the character of Orson Krennic, this was a fun villain. Like, the moment you see him on screen, like, there's nothing dull about him. This guy is just a blast to watch. Every time he just spoke, you could tell that he was having the time of his life on screen. So, and then there's also the main thing I think everybody wants me to talk about, but I think I'll get into that in the spoiler corner, Darth Vader. Yes, Darth Vader returns in this movie. James Earl Jones reprises his role voicing the character. And I won't say what he does just yet, but he pretty much owns every scene that he's in. And earlier I said that there was a CG character that I wasn't crazy for, but aside from that piece, when it comes to the CG in this film, it's some of the best that I've ever seen. And that is one thing that I loved about Force Awakens was the effects that it pulled off. So they mainly just used practical effects for the original trilogy, and pretty much all the prequels, it was just mainly CG. So they decided to put these two together for both Force Awakens and Rogue One. And the majority of this is practical, and I fully support that, and I'm always up for more practical. I absolutely love when they use CG as a tool for the movie to enhance the film, just not be the film. And that's what I respect. And the film was also directed by Gareth Edwards, who's also known for his recent Godzilla movie. And you can tell that this was a film that he personally wanted to do. Even before the trailer opened at a Star Wars convention, he pretty much sent a message to his mom saying, "Hey, Mom, I'm doing a Star Wars movie," and then they showed a trailer for it. And you can tell that this is a man with a lot of passion. Like, he put everything he can to make the best movie that he could. And one of the things that you could tell that this is a film by Gareth is that it's the scale of everything. That when characters are on the ground and they're looking up at ATTAs or ATATs, however you want to pronounce that, when those shots are being done and when the characters are running on the ground looking at this, you can feel the scale of all the creatures, planets, and droids that they're up against. And I absolutely love that. And you can tell that I didn't feel that this was a studio-based film at all. I felt like this was the movie that the director wanted from start to finish, even though I heard a few reshoot issues. So when people say things about reshoots, they automatically think to the bad side, where they think, oh, well, they didn't like what they have, so let's just add in some stuff. No, reshoots are an important part of filmmaking. You write the film, then you film it, then you edit it, then you go back and reshoot some stuff that you didn't think, worked out well, and fix that and try to make the film 100% as much as you can. And this is for, this isn't the first film that did reshoots. I mean, almost the entirety of, like, for example, Back to the Future was nearly reshot. And look how that film turned out. It turned out to be one of the greatest sci-fi masterpieces of all time. So it's not really, something to worry about. But overall, I thought that this was easily probably one of the best films of 2016, probably in my top 5. So I am going to So before I get into my spoiler corner, I want to give the final verdict for this movie. So I am going to give Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, an A. And I'm probably going to go see this movie 5 more times. So, with that said, now's the time to talk about spoilers. So if you have not seen the movie, I strongly suggest that you either mute your TV, mute your computer, or change the channel or watch something else. Because from here on out, I'm going to be talking about spoilers. There will be a spoiler sign right here so that, in case if anybody's watching or tuning in, then you could just, decide for yourself whether if you want to hear what I have to say or not. So here I go. So one of the issues that I had with this movie was earlier I mentioned that CG character, and that CG character is Admiral Tarkin. Yes, Tarkin is in this movie, and there's a scene where Krennic is speaking with him, and he's looking out the window at one of the planets, and you see Tarkin's reflection, and for a moment I got goosebumps thinking, okay, that is actually chilling, where you just see that. And then he turned around, and I thought, oh my God. Okay. You remember how in Tron Legacy they CG'd Jeff Bridges' face to make him look younger? That's exactly what they did to Tarkin in this movie. However, I thought Jeff Bridges was a lot more convincing than Tarkin in this movie. I thought, with all the CG that would have happened, this would have been like one of the major improvements. I mean, this is 2016. And, I would have forgiven it. Like, I don't even think that I would have noticed if they just, didn't show his face or only showed it through the mirror, or not the mirror, the window through his reflection. But as soon as he turned around, it just took me out of the movie completely. But if they just went with that one scene, I think that it would have been more forgiving. However, he's in like 3 or 4 more scenes, and it just felt distracting. But I felt maybe it's just used to me at that point. I mean, he probably had more screen time than Darth Vader did, which I will get to that in a minute. But one thing that I absolutely loved was something that people have always pointed out about the original trilogy, and that was the flaw in the Death Star, where people complain, why was there, an exhaust hole there so that it would be easily shot at and it would explode. People have made fun of that for years, but actually they have now confirmed why that is like that, and it is perfect on how they brought it up. So, Jyn Erso's father, played by Mads Mikkelsen, is the man who builds or has plans for the Death Star. He is the one who is responsible for making it, along with a few other engineers. And Krennic wants the credit for himself. And he he pretty much takes the credit for himself, which Tarkin wants the credit for that. So it's like, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. But one of the things that I loved was that Jin's father was purposely put that there so that because he was so fed up with what the Empire was doing and that he was forced by his will to make this death machine, is that he wanted no part in it anymore. So he pretty much set these plans up and did set that flaw up for the rebels. And yeah, and I thought to myself, you know what? This is now canon, and I'm glad it's canon, because now that joke will finally no longer exist, and if anyone does exist, then you bring up Rogue One. So, and another thing that I wanted to bring up was that the sad truth about the ending of this movie is that everybody dies. That is true. And you should some people already knew that going in because most of these characters aren't even in the movie for that long. Like, speaking of characters who aren't in the movie for very long, Saw Gerrera, played by Forrest Whitaker, I thought he would have had a bigger role in this movie, but you can't always get what you want there. But Forrest Whitaker's part in that role, I felt, it felt like Forrest Whitaker cared about acting again. I absolutely love this character. I know that he was in the Clone Wars, but I never really got a chance to watch that show. But I know people did like his character from there, so there's that. But on to The Death of Everyone, where they're on one of the planets that has the plans to the Death Star. They go in there and, they get it out and they send it out right before, the planet blows up. Even my favorite, K2SO, he gets shot up and, I thought, that's really sad right there. Even Donnie Yen's character, who is a guardian of the Jedi Temple, who's a blind man who I believe knows ways of the Force. And he keeps on saying things like, I'm one with the Force is one with me, I'm one with the Force is one with me, which is pretty much a prayer. And, I thought to myself, was this guy a Jedi at one point? Because he knows so much about the Force, or that he's, pretty much a Jedi wannabe, that, he wants to be like one of them, but I don't believe is. So, because he was blind, but he knew a lot about his surroundings, I thought to myself, does this character have the Force? And, I would have loved to know more about that until he's killed, along with Bees, his friend, who, thought, he was full of crap until, he saw what he did, and then he kept on saying what he needed to say. And as soon as, the planet blew up with all of them on it, I thought to myself, you know what? This was a very mature way on how they handled this. I'm glad that, they didn't sugarcoat anything, and, this is the way how the movie ended. And there are a few other Easter eggs and cameos, such as when they're on Yavin 4 before they go on that mission. We get to see C-3PO and R2-D2 there for a few seconds, which was kind of cute. It was a nice nod there. Bail Organa, played by, once again, Jimmy Smits from the prequels, is in this movie. And he brings up saying that he's going to be going to... Not Yavin. Oh, my God. I can't remember the name of the planet. This is going to drive me nuts. But the one that gets blown up in A New Hope. And he's saying that he's going back there, and it's like, I know his fate now. And, he does bring up Obi-Wan at one point. And near the end, when they get the plans, they are brought to Princess Leia, whose Carrie Fisher's face is CG'd again. However, it's actually probably done better than it was with Tarkin, because you only see her for less than a minute, for like maybe 3 to 5 seconds. So that one was less distracting because of how little we saw of it, which I thought was okay there. But the main thing I want to talk about is Darth Vader. Now, apparently he has a castle on Mustafar, which Krennic goes to visit, and they're just speaking about plans about the Death Star, saying like, well, would like credit for this, and him just pretty much saying there is no Death Star up until then, and he's getting mouthed to, and then all of a sudden, Krennic just pauses, and then he's twitching. I'm like, wait, is he doing the Force choke? Is he really doing the Force choke? And then he is, and probably one of the most best Darth Vader lines is when he just goes, "Don't choke on your aspiration, Admiral." And at that point, I was like, that got me chills. I was like, you know what? I needed that, and I was satisfied, and if they didn't, I was like, all right, that was, enough Darth Vader right there. I was like, is that the only scene that he's going to be in? No, he is in it again. He is in another scene near the end, which I would say is probably the best part of the movie. That's when the rebels get the plans, and they're finally about to escape, but the door is sealed. And all of a sudden, it's dark, and they turn around, and they hear it. They hear, and then you see it. The lightsaber just punches it out, and then he just wipes the floor with that. Like, this was one of those moments where I was like, this is probably the Darth Vader scene. Like, it looked like something out of a horror movie. Like, it looked like something out of Friday the 13th. It was like Friday the 13th meets Alien. And the guy who was holding the plans at first was like, let us out. And then instead just saying, here, take this, because he realizes we're not getting out of this alive. And that ending is actually 10 minutes right before episode 4 begins. So it is literally a tie-in. So you can technically watch Rogue One and A New Hope back to back, and it could be considered all one story. Just a 4-hour story that you could just, sit back and watch and think, oh, I'm into this. I really am. So yeah, overall, I thought this was one of the best Star Wars movies I've ever seen. Like I said, one of the darkest, probably as dark as Empire, but I would say it's the most grim as well, because you also get to see just these, stormtroopers that, they got dirt on them. It's definitely a war film. It puts the war in Star Wars. And that is pretty much what I have to say about the film overall. But, what did you guys think of the movie? Did you like it as much as I did? Did you not like it as much as I did? If so, just let me know. Until then, this is Dan the Movie Man, signing off.